Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fugit Blitz, and today we're going to have a look at the Hetzer, the Tier 4 German TD. Well, this is a bit of a misnomer for me. This resides in Tier 4, yet this tank was a very late World War II tank. In fact, it was designed in 1943. It actually only saw service from 44 to 45. Yet it resides in the lower tiers, which is really strange, but not to worry. That's what the beastie looks like. It's a beautiful looking tank. It's actually based on the Czechoslovakian Panzer 38T chassis, and it was basically converted into a Panzerjäger. Now the name Hetzer actually means chaser or baiter, and that was never the name given to this tank. That name was actually reserved for the E10, which was a similar tank but never got off the drawing board. But there is reports that Heinz Guderian did say that troops were calling this tank Hetzer. Armour-wise, well, as you can see, the front top glacis plate is, well, casemate is pretty hardcore, but the rest is pretty, well, pants. This is it if it faces off against a KV-1, and as you can see, it's pretty paper thin. But the KV-1 is a big, heavy tank at Tier 5, so how does it fare against a heavy tank in Tier 4? Don't get me wrong though, it will face KV-1s. This is it against the British Matilda, and as you can see, it goes pretty red. It's a good little side scraper, but the lower glacis plate is pretty open. As for the stats, wow, damage, it's going to churn out about 130. Rate of fire is just over 7 rounds a minute. Penetration's 110. Don't forget though guys, this is the Tier 4. The armour, wow, 39mm. Speed is pretty nice, 27, and the rotation, i.e. how quickly it turns on its axis, isn't too bad at all. When we look at the more detailed stats, hit points, you've got 440. Main armour, well, the front as we saw is pretty thick, 60mm. The sides and the rear, however, are paper thin. The view range, you're going to look at 223 meters, which isn't that great realistically for a TD. It makes up for that in its camo profile. Stationary and while moving is well above average. And even when stationary after it fires, I mean, it's not too bad. DPM, you're going to be lucky to churn out 933 HP a minute. Reload time is just over 8 seconds. Average pen on your AP is 110, on your APCR 158, and the HE, well, there's no point talking about it. Average damage on your AP is about 130, APCR 113, and HE 160. You've got an aim time of just over 3 seconds. The gun depression, it's not that great, it's 8 degrees. Elevation is quite good with 15. Now this tank is a fixed casemate, so the gun traversal limits to the left is a measly 5 degrees and to the right is 15. Top speed, wow, you can lucky to get 42 out of it going forwards, 11 going back, with an average speed of 27. And as you can see there, it's not exactly the heaviest tank in the world. A couple of things I want to talk about this screen here. You really need to get this tank up to these top gun, top engine, and top tracks as soon as you possibly can. The reason for that is that the Hetzer relies on mobility more than firepower. The engine and the tracks that are stock are very poor, and it reduces your mobility massively. The stock gun isn't great either, so you really need to invest and get those top modules as soon as you can if you want to get the best out of this tank, guys. With regards to what equipment to load, well, I would recommend the following. I would go for the gun rammer over the calibrated shells because you don't really need the extra penetration, to be fair. I would get the defense system rather than improved modules. I would look at getting the improved optics because your camouflage profile is already pretty good. I would consider getting the supercharge over the enhanced gun laying device because again your aim time isn't too bad. You need to enhance your armor rather than get anything else, and obviously it's a fixed case, make no good having traverse. You need the engine boost. I would also consider dropping the vertical stabilizer in favor of the refined gun, and the reason I say that is because you'd rather have that shell going further and causing damage rather than getting that proper aim time down, because it's negligible. Your aim time is pretty good as it is. those are just my recommendations. Obviously, play around with them and see what suits your style of play and what you're happy with. When it comes to consumables, I run it with 2 repair kits and adrenaline. I don't run it with the speed boost or the fire extinguisher. I don't see a point on this tank. I then have the guys eating lots of German chocolate bars because I want the crew skills to increase rather than get additional speed out of the engine. Don't really need that. What I do need is a better reload time and more DPM, and as you can see here, the chocolate bar does that nicely. With regards to ammo loadout, this is what I normally run. I normally run majority of my ammunition is standard AP. I have some 15 APCR, and as you notice there, I switch it from gold to credit, and I only run about 5 HE because at tier 4 the chances of you using a lot of HE is very, very slim. That's just what I use. It's just a recommendation. You might want to change it around. So what is this tank all about? Like I said earlier, the Hetzer relies heavily on its mobility moreover than its gun. Don't get me wrong, if you've got the top modules on this thing, it's actually a really, well, it's a nice TD anyway, but with the top modules, it's much, much better. If you are rolling this thing out stock, then you're going to struggle, guys. You're going to struggle to move, and you're going to struggle to cause any real harm to the enemy. I'm running it here with all the top modules, and as you can see, mobility is not too bad, and the gun is pretty nice. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Hetzer is it is a pretty solid little TD front on. This tank is not designed to be front lined, okay? It's designed to sit at the back in a second line support and use that gun as when you can. You're not going to be dishing out shed hoodles of damage, as I said. In real life, this was a fantastic tank. It really was. In fact, it was so good, they were continuing to be used long after the war. Why this tank resides at tier 4 is beyond me. Clearly, the tech trees are not an historic line, because if it was, then this tank actually comes after the Ag Panther. Funnily enough, it really does. The sad fact is that this is now the first German TD you come across since 5.5, when they removed the Panzerjäger 1 and the Marder. So this is the first German TD, that you will be introduced to. I'm now going to show you 2 games, one on the North American server and one on the EU server, both of which are my games. This is the first one on the North American server. Now, on the North American server, I haven't played many games, so this game is merely about me seal clubbing bots. And I'm showing this game mainly to show you what, if you're a new player, you can do with this tank. And what you can do with this tank is, okay, it's got 8 degrees of gun depression. You can use that 8 degrees, and as you can see there, I'm bouncing off the front because they can't see my lower plate, and it's very difficult for them to pen that front glacier plate, the upper hull type casemate. I've already done 400 damage, and I've already bounced 360. If you can get the Hetzer in a position like this, you can be a real menace. Again, I'm using all the top modules, and that is, I can't stress that enough, guys. You need to get this tank up to the top modules as soon as you can. If you want this TD, you are going to struggle until you get all the top modules on it. It's not a tank that likes being stock. It really, really isn't. As I said, you get very, very poor mobility from the stock tracks and the stock engine, and you don't churn out a lot of damage with the stock gun. Previously, this thing came with 3 guns. It had a little derpy gun as well, which was good fun, but not exactly the best gun ever. What you can see here is this tank has the ability to bounce a lot. So I've already bounced 450, I've dished out 930 damage. It is a fun little tank, and a lot of people I see nowadays struggle in this tank, and I don't understand why. The only thing I can think of is that you're not playing the tank correctly. Now look at this. There's a Hetzer. I can't pen his upper casemate, upper glacis plate, whatever you want to call it. But look at the bottom plate. Oh, I can pen that every day of the week. So I've put myself just behind this little bump so he can't see my glacis plate. And I'm just going to carry on smacking him in the lower plate until he goes. And this is what you need to do with these tanks, guys. You need to understand the armor, and you need to understand. I mean, I've bounced 510 now. Okay, the Matilda is now just going to pummel me. He's got a better reload than me, better DPM than me. He's actually firing premium ammunition, so he's penning me very easily, funnily enough, but not massively, and he takes me out eventually. We did 1,213 damage in that game. We bounced 560. Okay, I know there's an argument that it's North American account. I've played less than 100 battles, so I'm facing bots. The idea was to show you what this tank is capable of doing in the hands of a new player. You can put this tank in a nice position. We actually lost that game, but I got an ace, which was nice. And as you can see there, it will give you some good credits. Now this is me on exactly the same map, but this time I'm on the EU server on my main account. There are no bots, and I am going to do exactly the same thing, almost, that I just did. I'm going to get to this type of position where that lower hull, that lower plate is protected, and it allows me to fire shots with impunity and hopefully bounce a fair few coming back. That's the trick with the Hetzer. Protect that bottom plate as much as possible. And if you can do that and you can get shots in, you really are a formidable little tank. And I mean, I love the Hetzer. I think the Hetzer is one of those tanks that is underrated and undervalued. And if you know it and you can play it and you understand it, it's a beautiful tank indeed. It's got a decent reload, it dishes out decent damage, and it's got a pretty neat armor profile, funnily enough. And look, I've bounced nothing. I've already done almost 600 damage. This is a poor shot because I don't bother to wait. I've almost done 600 damage, and I'm having fun, and I haven't been scratched yet. Now I'm going to give that KV1 a bit of a hard time in the engine deck. You see, it's a low roll, 124, but not to worry because I can whittle him down and whittle him down and whittle him down. That's a much better damage. The 82 is going to smack me for 88. I can handle that, not a big deal. Allows me to push off the Stug, smack one into his lower plate. Unfortunately, he smacks me back because he can see my lower plate now. I'm trying to get that lower plate behind these rocks. A little bit of an angle. Get rid of the Stug. Now we can move on to the KV1. He gets my lower plate again. I'm down to 22 hit points. I've now got to work out what am I going to do. I've got better load time than he has. I'm lowering his lower plate. Remember when we saw the KV1 earlier? If you angle this tank, you can bounce, as you saw there. And when we saw in our inspector, it was a pretty formidable tank. Stick it onto APCR to make sure of the kill. Get the kill. I love this tank. I think it's a fantastic little TD, and if you're coming across this tank for the first time, if you're a new player, then you need to understand this tank is good fun. Try not to roll out in it like a madman, however. It's not that type of tank. So we've done what? Just shy of 1600 damage here. That's a horrible bounce on the M4, which is going to cost me, and it does. I bounced 200. I dished out just shy of 1600. This is a proper game. There's no bots in this game. This was a pure Seal Clubbers Paradise game. Majority of the players actually were not bad players, by the way. So don't sit there thinking that I was just Seal Clubbing for the sake of Seal Clubbing. I was not. They were not bad players at all. We eventually went on to win that game, and I got a nice mastery in that game as well. Don't forget, this was an EU server game, so these were proper players, not bots. I love that game. I love that tank. Guys, that's the Hetzer, the beautiful Tier 4 German TD. If you're a new player and you're just grinding that line, take heed about what I'm saying. Look at those loadouts, look at that equipment, and look at how to play this tank. For those older players who haven't played this tank for a long time, go back out in it. You'll be surprised. It's a beautiful little TD. Anyway, I've been Fugit. I hope that's been useful. By all means, comment and all the other stuff below. If you haven't pressed subscribe yet, please do, because it's a beautiful thing to do. It costs you nothing and puts a smile on my face and makes me happy for most of the day. If you've got any decent replays, send them to me at fugitsblitz@gmail.com, or join my Discord server and you can upload them there. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram if you like that social media type stuff, which you'll have to forgive me, I'm still getting used to. If you wish, you can also become a patron and you can help support the channel again if that is what you'd like to do. And until the next time, I will say my usual stuff. Stay safe out there. Have fun on the battlefield and happy tanking, because you know what? That's what it's all about, having fun and being happy.